In the ever evolving realm of global tech entrepreneurship, Africa stands at the brink of a transformative era driven by innovative thinkers and dynamic leaders. Although tech has progressively evolved and grown on the continent, there are still gaps, especially with emerging tech entrepreneurs. In this episode, I sit with Isaac Newton Acquah, a tech savvy business developer and advisor, as we delve into the intricacies of tech entrepreneurship with the African context in mind, exploring how local insights and global connections can spark innovation and drive sustainable growth. Enjoy this episode. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the Tech Stuff Podcast, where we navigate today's tech wave, one electrifying conversation at a time. I am your host, Raymond Klutse, and today we have the Isaac Newton, the famous physicist, discovery, the one who discovered, the famous law of gravity and motion. Just joking, but I have Isaac Newton Acquah here. He's a famous techie entrepreneur. I don't know what to call you. You have to walk us through all the titles, but I have Isaac Newton here to tell us or to have a discussion with us on an interesting conversation that I think would be very good for all of us to benefit from. So, first and foremost, Isaac, thank you so much for making time. I am excited and grateful for having you, or to have you on the Texas podcast today.
Really, the pleasure's mine. I love what you're doing. I love the people you're highlighting. So I'm honored to be along this list of great people in the tech space that you've had on your podcast. And I just love what you're doing. So it's an honor for me to be on this show. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Raymond.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really, really, really appreciate it. Okay, so in the shortest amount of time, I would like you to, introduce yourself for those who do not know you, which would be meaning they're living under a rock, to just give us a brief background. Who is Isaac? What do you do? Just a brief background in a minute or two. Then we get into today's conversation.
Okay, so I think my new title has become the hype man. I love to kind of just share what people are doing. I
Mm,
like to uplift, support, enable. I've been doing it mostly for the tech startup ecosystem in Ghana, parts of Africa. I was based in Europe beforehand. But I would say like I like to enable and help people grow,
mm,
whether it's tech, whether it's agriculture, whether it's the creative sector.
mm,
I say like I like to be a catalyst and help unlock and achieve greater growth and success for people.
mm. And that's quite a rare path to take because not a lot of people choose to be hype men. For those who do not know, Isaac and I started speaking on LinkedIn, and we are very much alike. He's my doppelganger. I say it. I think he's very much, when I look at a few years to come, what I think I will be doing is very much what you are doing. But I'm just wondering, before we even get into any conversation, what do you think led you to become a catalyst? Was it from like a personal story? Did you feel like maybe people were not singing your praises enough when you were younger, so you want to not let people go through the same thing, or it just happens to be your personality at work?
I think personality, but also kind of built in from like my family and so on. So like I don't see myself to be different. I just see myself to be emulating what my parents, my sisters do.
Mm,
And I think I've been blessed to have so many great people in my circle and around it, in my orbit, in a
mm,
sense. So like I think the world needs to know what they're doing.
mm.
Like I mean, you mentioned like if you don't know me, they're living under a rock. But if people don't know my circle, then I don't know what they're doing, right? They're not on any radio, TV,
Mm,
WhatsApp, social media, or anything, right?
right.
Um, so I just feel it's my place to help uh, shine a light on and spotlight
Mm,
on what these great people are doing and
mm,
help them get the recognition that they deserve.
mm. Amazing, amazing. So let's talk about a bit about entrepreneurship. Almost everyone says they are an entrepreneur these days. The title is thrown around, and when we even zone it further to tech entrepreneurship, people have companies, people have small startups. Everyone is getting into entrepreneurship. What do you think is really fanning this huge interest, apart from the evangelism for entrepreneurship that is going on around the world? What do you think is really fanning that interest into entrepreneurship, especially especially in the tech space? Yeah.
An interesting question. Well, so I say maybe in the tech space, people are now seeing the amount of money that
Mm,
we made. but also the amount of impact that can be made.
mm,
If you look at like the Fortune 500 companies, like the top 10 of those, back in the 1980s or whatever, it will be like hardware or food or like or other kind like traditional companies, if you like. But whilst in today's world, it's more of these tech companies. It's the
mm,
Microsoft, it's the Googles, Amazons that dominate. So you've seen this rise of the globalization
mm,
has, I think, definitely helped.
mm,
But you also see this rise of what you can do with tech.
mm,
And tech itself has become a lot more accessible,
mm,
a lot more cheaper. There are more people in this space. There's more learnings. It's easy to do. I mean, I don't want to say I'm old, but I remember when it was like not every household that had a computer. I'm talking
mm,
about living in Austria and Europe, in a
mm,
very wealthy country at
mm,
that point,
mm,
or still is. But back then, not every household had a computer.
mm,
But now everybody has a smartphone and a laptop or two laptops and so on and so forth. Like,
mm,
and this is here in Ghana, right?
mm,
So like the amount of accessibility to technical tools
mm,
for you to then build tech solutions has
mm,
really grown.
mm.
I think that's helped the proliferation of tech.
Right. Okay. Would you say that African tech is making or making strides or breaking ground as much as they are supposed to? If not, what do you think is getting in the way of us becoming global entrepreneurs or global company? Like, what is stopping the African startup from blowing up apart from just the technical expertise? What are some of the factors that are getting in the way?
Um, I'll still say it's new, right? And I mean, if you look at tech globally, right, Silicon Valley still dominates everything, and
Mm,
it's a very small part of Silicon Valley. Like Palo Alto, I think, accounts for I don't know something like 50% of all the world's big companies, right?
right.
In this kind of small concentrated place, but they benefit from having excellent universities.
Mm,
So you have the best and brightest minds. You have these large established companies, the Sun Microsofts, some systems, Microsofts, Oracles, all in one place.
mm,
So you have great mentors and people
mm,
you can kind of poach into it. And you have a lot of money. I think what California, if California was its own country, it'd be one of the top 10 countries in terms of wealth
mm,
in the world.
right.
So you have so much wealth concentrated in one place.
Mm,
We need more of that in Africa,
mm,
right? So we don't have a lot of large companies.
mm,
Most of the large companies we have are foreign multinationals that are here. So we need to grow more large companies in Africa, firstly.
mm,
We need more money. So a lot of the issues is lack of investment or even lack of purchasing power for services.
mm,
Um, but it's a very new space. So like I'm based here in Ghana. Something like 6 years ago, there was very few startup hubs. Entrepreneurship and tech entrepreneurship was very unheard of.
mm,
Now it's coming into the forefront.
mm,
You hear about it in the news, but it's still a very young industry here.
mm. Okay.
And if we're able to grow it from universities,
Mm,
so they have really good courses, talent coming out. You mentioned talent in
mm,
your statement. We
mm,
need more talent,
mm,
but then also the awareness that we can be in Ghana and sell to the world.
mm,
I think a country like Estonia, based in Europe, they're a very small country, population of 2 million. So that's like a third of Accra, the
mm,
capital of
mm,
Ghana.
right.
But they have 5 to 10 unicorn companies,
Mm,
likes of Skype, likes of Bolt,
mm,
all came from Estonia.
right.
So when they build tech, they know they're building for the rest of the world,
Right.
whilst we're still trying to build solutions to solve a big or small problem within the country,
Right.
rather than thinking how do we spread it across Africa or even to Europe.
Right. The reason why I was asking that is you've actually hit the nail right on the head, because every time we talk about um entrepreneurship, or every time it's an African startup, it just seems to be very narrow to a smaller scale, and we don't have the chance to break into those borders, like a breakthrough, like into those markets, like the bigger market, the European, the, like, states and all that. And I can see that, like, there's a rise of a lot of entrepreneurs who are now getting into the space, you are constantly talking with people in the space. You're talking about different things. You're talking about you're talking with people who are in different domains altogether. What do you think is one pattern that is happening through all these entrepreneurs that are coming into the market that is not going to help them get to that global market stage?
I think it's a limiting belief.
Mm,
I think it's not lack of talent or money so much so, but mindset and even knowing that you can, because there've been so few examples of companies doing so, you don't even know it's possible to do. We'll get into this later, but there are two companies that really spring to mind that have just kind of changed the mindset
mm,
and opened up the game.
mm,
Andela, Nigerian based,
right.
they a $1 billion unicorn company
Mm,
selling services of tech work and so on and so forth, predominantly to the West,
right.
and it shows it's possible.
Right.
Another one is Flutterwave,
Right.
a tech payment system.
Mm,
They've gone to buy a US company,
right.
right? And you're just like, how? Who gave you the audacity to do that?
Right.
The African Leadership University, ALX,
Mm,
have also gone to buy something in California. So
right.
it's like, it was so used to the West coming to
Buy
buy
from
things in Africa,
right.
but now all of a sudden we're like, no, we're not going to go and buy there,
Mm,
and that's changing the mindsets. So I think now young developers in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and the rest of Africa
mm,
are now looking at this like, oh wow, it is possible.
mm,
So you start believing and dreaming of things that you can't do. I
mm,
mean, like it's that sounds like a really weird example, but like when Wakanda came out,
mm,
the Black Panther movie,
mm,
all of a sudden like black kids saw themselves as
right.
superheroes,
Right.
and that kind of belief and that hope and aspirations that grew in this um, race that were like marginalized in superhero movies.
Mm,
And that same thing now with examples from this tech landscape, I believe would help galvanize the entrepreneurs to dream bigger.
right.
I think we dream too small.
Right. You mentioned university, and there are quite a lot of universities that are springing up in Ghana that are trying to, champion some great change of a sort. Do you think that there is something that in code traditional universities that have been there for a while can incorporate quickly, that is not going to necessarily get in the way of the structures, or even if it does, to be able to foster this mindset? Because it looks like a lot of people just go through school, do the typical stuff, they write the exam, blah blah blah. And even talking to a few people who are about finishing school, like I had a cousin that I was talking to earlier today, and I asked him, "Oh, what does your LinkedIn look like?" And he was like, I don't have a LinkedIn. I have to set one up." It's like there just seems to be like a gap there somewhere. Like, what do you think that some of these institutions that are constantly having to house these talents, because we keep saying, the young brains are the future. They go through the institution and then they
Hmm.
come
Hmm.
out, and most of them, may be having a lack, or they don't have a competitive advantage as compared to the one who is probably in a different country that has more resources. Now, I know there are a lot of, cultural, infrastructural stuff that get in the way of our ability to do a lot of things. But with what we have, as as um as institutions, what are some of the things that we can, incorporate as early as possible to be able to help boost this kind of process of getting more people who are thinking down these lines of I can do, and not just leave school and feel like, okay, I'm not getting a job in like the next 2 or 3 years? Because that's a narrative. A lot of people finish
Yeah,
school, and I know we all finish school to want to get a job. That, no two
yeah.
ways. I don't try to force anyone, because I wasn't forced to get into entrepreneurship one way or the other. I'm still working, I'm still doing 9 to 5. But how can we
Hmm.
fan that flame one way or the other? Do we get more conferences? Do we enforce more entrepreneurial courses? What do we do based on your experience? Yeah.
Well, I mean, all the above. And what I have to say is, I'm very proud to announce that a lot of universities have gone ahead and created hubs, like startup hubs
Mm,
on campus.
good.
So that's, I think, a game changer, because now all of a sudden you have access to that entrepreneurial mindset, that mentors, that guidelines to building something
Mm,
on campus. You're not waiting to finish and then go find a hub somewhere in town.
Mm,
So been a lot of efforts to bring entrepreneurship to a younger level, so universities, but even into high schools.
mm,
So I did a training program a couple of years back where I was training high schools about entrepreneurship,
mm,
business model canvas, and pitching, and so on. Because if at that age you start being exposed to it, then later you already have that framework to use. I think in the US, a lot of kids grow up doing like bake sale cookies or lemonade stands. So they have this kind of entrepreneurial gene in them,
mm,
but it's not really a gene, but something that they have been nurtured
right.
from age 5 or 10. They are understanding some basic accounting, some marketing, some cash handling, some pitching, and all of that.
Mm,
So now, 20 years later, when you say, okay, start a business, they go, oh, I have done one already.
mm,
Whilst others like, oh, I have no clue where to start. I
mm,
don't know how to handle money.
mm,
I don't know about presentations. And obviously, you're supposed to form a team, but if you have a general mindset, it really helps.
mm,
So being able to bring it to a lower level, hubs on campus, training programs on campus, exposure to teachers and entrepreneurs and speaking sessions and conferences would really help and go a long way.
mm. That's amazing. Now let's zone a bit into you as an entrepreneur. Would you say the journey has been a jolly one? If it hasn't been, walk us through maybe your typical entrepreneurial journey. You did mention that you didn't, grow up here in Ghana. Okay, when I say here, I'm not recording from Ghana. We're talking about you didn't grow up in Ghana where you are based now. But walk us through, how the environment you were in ignited an entrepreneurial spirit in you. What was your first entrepreneurial journey or your entrepreneurial venture? Did you fail? Did you succeed? And what it is, and what does entrepreneurship look like for you at the moment?
So lots lots of different things. I'll say my first entrepreneurship journey was kind of accidental. I had come back from the States. I had bought a lot of candies, jawbreakers and bubblicious and all of that. And I remember having like some out, and someone asked, "Can I buy it off you?" And that kind of was like triggered, like, oh wow, like I could make money from this.
Right,
Like, like this has value that's worth currency, right?
right.
Um, so I mean, that was my first kind of like selling of stuff. But my first business was actually an event organizing, so night events.
Mm,
I'd been a DJ at this point. I've been an MC. I've done a lot of things in the creative space, um, but it ended up being that actually throwing events is something I enjoyed. But okay, how could I actually make it into a regular thing? And this is back at university. I'm like, okay, it'd be great to get some more pocket money,
mm,
and got into that business that way. And it was ups and downs. Like you have all these great plans. Okay, cool. If I invite 500 people, 200 will show up. Opening night, only 50 people are there. You're like, what's going on? So you have all these like ups and downs and struggles that way. Like I don't think there's been any journey that's been very smooth.
mm,
Mike Tyson says, no, you have a plan until you get punched in the
mm,
face. And as an entrepreneur, you get punched a lot,
mm,
and it's about how you're able to get back up
mm,
and keep going.
mm,
I'll say one of my most painful startup journeys was actually after my bachelor's. I was back in Austria at this point.
mm,
I grew up in Austria, and I was trying to copy something I saw in the UK and bring it to Austria. Student discount cards. So you get queue jumps, you get extended happy hour, you get access to certain things. Makes a lot of sense. In Vienna, the capital, a lot of students. First mover advantage. All these business terms. Okay, cool. Makes sense. I want to kill the market. Already started picturing the cars I was going to buy and everything.
right.
Totally failed.
Oh my God.
Um, Four other companies who had all tried to work with us partners, tried to copy the idea and implement it, and they were entrenched. Some of them own club nights, some of them own restaurants, some of them were part of universities, so they had a whole university crowd already there. All failed as well.
Mm,
So it was an expensive lesson for me and others, but I also learned that it's all about product market fit.
mm,
You might have a great product, but if the market doesn't want it for whatever reason, the culture, the attitudes and whatnot, it just won't work.
mm,
So I think those jarring lessons
mm,
has guided me now. So I do a lot of coaching and mentoring,
mm.
and I think I'm able to use my scars to help guide the startups and
Right.
how not to get the same scars I did.
Right. We'll come to the coaching bits here and there because I've actually even thrown it out. Like I've actually reached out to Isaac telling him that, you know what, I want you to mentor me. He was like, I want you to mentor me too. I was like, okay, we'll mentor one another or each other in this case. But let's talk a bit about that failure. There were a few times that I failed at a few things I wanted to start, and dealing with them can be very challenging. How would you say you were able to deal with some of these like major failures as an entrepreneur? Yeah.
A good support system, um, having maybe a bit of a stoic mindset, um, and also looking at. I mean, I'm quoting Pitbull here, which is kind of ironic, but he says there's no losing,
Mm,
only learning,
mm,
right? And it's about taking the lessons out about things that aren't going right, and seeing how you can apply them in the future in a different mindset, a different way,
mm,
right? So, yes, I had failures. Or rather, I had things that didn't go out the way I planned them to go.
mm,
Um, but I think in all of that, it has gotten me to where I am now, and better prepared me for the future.
mm. Great. You are very good when it comes to building relationships, and I'm sure that all stems from the way your family dynamics is. Can if before we even get into the building of relationship, tell us how your family setup as a whole has been a very great contributing factor to your career.
Yeah, so it's very different personalities,
Mm,
but also all kind of very aligned. So my father's a nuclear scientist, also called Isaac Newton Aqua.
oh, so
Um,
you're junior?
I'm junior,
Ah!
so I'm the third.
Oh wow! So all of you are
Yeah,
Isaac Newton
so,
Aqua.
yeah. So
That is
it's a
interesting.
yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but lot of promise and lot of honor to carry that,
Oh wow. Okay, keep.
right? But so he's a nuclear scientist, but he's also a professor. Loves teaching,
Mm,
loves giving back. So I've just seen him do that.
mm,
He's also a chef. He loves cooking, and also a historian, right? So like everybody has this very things about them. My mom was a teacher, Sunday school teacher, after school teacher, but was also president of the Ghanaian Union.
mm,
So kind of also almost like an ambassadorial role, but really helping people out through crisis. So I think got a lot of things from her, supporting both
mm,
celebrating the wins and baby showers and all that, but also consoling people in funerals and other things there. Then I have two powerful sisters.
mm,
One in a legal background, who then went into investment
mm,
banking, and then now also doing a lot of things with startups. And the other one, economist, IT, uh, global, and I mean US, China, Spain, Ghana, Nigeria, global networker, business builder,
mm,
and so on.
mm,
And has also gone into mentoring, training, and investments
mm,
as well.
mm.
Now, currently the CEO of the Ghana Venture Capital Association.
Wow.
So every time people say, like I have accomplished a lot, I'm like, you don't know my sisters, like,
You don't know the people around me. I'm just a
yeah,
baby, right?
I'm just
Wow.
junior me here.
Wow.
But no, like it's really really great. So for example, like although we're all very varied,
Mm,
we do a lot of like trainings together.
mm,
When we do trainings and we can train on the same things, but also come from different angles.
mm,
So some are specialized more on like pitching, some are more on cultural awareness. So
mm,
so we complement and support each other in that aspect.
mm,
So sometimes my parents are like, how you all go to the same training program, right? But they've been super supportive. I
mm,
mean, like my parents have suffered a lot, but they caused it. They enabled us to explore.
mm,
So like 1 minute they're taking me to like I don't know painting class, then I'm going to rugby, then doing Model United Nations. So I've got a chance to really expose
mm,
myself to a lot of different
mm.
things. Say my siblings, like one was even whilst still at school, the coach of the basketball team. You know, I
Wow.
was like, what student does that, right? But the my parents have empowered us to not have limiting beliefs.
Mm,
I think that was the greatest gift that they gave us. A lot of support, um, very different kind of parenting. Like we grew up in traditional Guinean
mm-hmm.
households, like can't pass things with your left hand, just says it
Yeah,
all for people
yeah.
who
Yes,
understand that.
please. You have to use please.
Yes, please, right? But also very liberal and very different.
Mm,
Yes, have your friends over, also from other genders. Yes, they can come sleep over. Yes, go party over here. So very free, but also instilling values in
mm,
us.
mm,
So I think they give us the values and the freedom of the right measure.
mm. That is amazing. It's so funny how I actually don't know. Maybe our parents have to sit down and talk with each other or one another because we happen to have just grown up in very similar households. I also have my dad exposed us to a lot of like cultures when we were growing up. So there are a lot of things that have had like a huge impact on the way I look at life and how I even interact with people. Now you did talk about mentorship, and before we even come to that, I've seen that you've built your career in a very interesting way where you're able to fit almost everywhere. Like we could have you on the low level tech stuff and you have something to say. Then we can get you into be with the upper echelon of people and you can fit in there. And like I said, it's something I aspire to. How did you get there? Like how does one, like, if you want to put a book or like a playbook or like um a roadmap together, which I know definitely everyone's path is different, like how would you say, how did you get there? Basically, because I'm intrigued. I won't lie.
No, I honestly think, I mean, it's a couple of things. I was very privileged to have exposure and experiences.
Mm,
So I mentioned, so everything from more United Nations, or being involved in fashion
mm.
shows, or lots of different cultural experiences. So like I'm very proud of the fact that I've traveled to close to 40 different countries, right?
What?
So
Wait,
I've got to
wait,
see
wait. You
and
have to backtrack. How many countries?
440.
Wow.
40. Yeah.
Okay.
Grew up in Europe, without borders. It's very easy to travel
Right.
around. So
Yeah.
most of them are in Europe. So most of the countries I've traveled to are in Europe. So it makes it easier to travel around. But I've got to experience and see a lot of things,
Mm,
right? Um, so I think that's partly it. But I think also humility is I've and great mentors. So I've got to sit at
mm,
tables with world leaders, and whatnot, and hear from them. But also sit at tables with people who are now struggling or coming up,
mm,
and also hear from them. And I feel I'm able to be comfortable and willing to be in both places.
mm,
Uh, just last week, or no, in fact, ended yesterday, there was the Africa Prosperity Dialogue.
mm,
So it's kind of Ghana's version of Davos,
mm,
if you like.
mm,
Various world leaders from across Africa. I think we had some like 10 or 15 heads of states or
mm,
trade ministers and so on there. Dangote and other MTN group CEOs and so on and so forth were there, and also other startups who are now just beginning to make it were all there, right? So you have this beautiful blend, and I feel that I'm privileged enough to be able to speak to people in power,
mm,
but also like humble enough to know that the person who maybe even is sweeping, or is the check-in person you
mm,
might discount, is actually somebody, and someone who can get you far.
mm.
In fact, there's one, I mean, kind of side story, but there was one lady that got hired for a company,
Right.
and she was the front of house for an event
Mm,
for 2 years.
right.
And after the events, someone talked to her and just had the right attitude, and she got hired. And like you might just discount, oh, just front of house, just some secretary, but now she's doing amazing things, really like spearheading a lot of things in that company.
Right.
And it's some people who you genuinely won't think is worth talking to.
Right.
But like I realized, no, everybody's a person.
Mm. That is amazing. That is amazing. You did speak about you being a coach and a mentor. How would you say that is an important ingredient for startups, entrepreneurs in general, especially African entrepreneurs? Um, Getting examples of Africans like yourself who are able to get into these spaces, who have done some of these things and have thrived. How crucial and important is mentorship in that development process, and and how do people get mentors? How do people reach out to people to be to be their mentors apart from Raymond Klutse asking Isaac Newton to be his mentor, and I'm not getting anyone else in. If I take him, like, there's no other spot. But more importantly, like,
It's full. It's
it's
full
full,
now.
it's full, it's full up. I'm enough space. I've gained enough weight in the US, so I'm enough space to occupy. But yes, how would you say, and like mentorship, coaching, and all that is helpful, and how do people access such opportunities?
I'll say I do a lot of mentoring now as a way to pay back the people who mentored me.
Mm,
From family friends, and other mentors that I got along the way, including just like bosses that just took an interest and a desire to really help. I don't think he'll mind me calling him out, but one of my favorite bosses, Michael Heiss, when I was back at Siemens, um, he did so. I mean, like till today, I look back at what I'm doing and I just see his fingerprints in all of it.
mm,
From being in tech and innovation, and like AI is now the big thing, but he is fundamental for me. I mean, we wrote different papers, like scientific research papers, around big data, which is kind of the precursor of AI. So now that I'm hosting panels on AI, it's because of him. He believed in research, but he also believed in entrepreneurship, right?
mm,
And like when you're working somewhere and you tell your boss that you have a side hustle, you're really expecting him to be like condemning you. Rather, he was showing me off to all his colleagues. Oh, the guy in my office, Isaac, he has a business. Isaac, tell them about it. And he was like my first evangelist,
mm,
my first hype man. Really give me confidence and exposure and peace of mind, right?
mm,
And there was this post recently, one training I did some years back. One lady now is really rising far, and she put a post and she mentioned that she really thanks me for the training, but also for believing in her,
mm,
right? And I came to do a training, I did my job, but like I didn't realize how impactful the small kind of water cooler discussions we had, and
mm,
when you're walking around just talking to people and so on and so forth, impacted her.
mm,
And like, to get singled out, and I know she had a lot of different trainers, so I felt really touched. And it got me thinking that actually in the whole kind of mentorship thing, people think about, okay, you're giving business advice
mm,
or you're giving money or something. But I think the most important part is kind of that emotional capital
mm,
you give to people, that
mm,
okay, you are not crazy and you can persevere. There
mm,
is light at the end of the tunnel.
mm,
What you're trying to do makes sense, and that kind of emotional capital, especially for young entrepreneurs,
mm,
first time entrepreneurs, or first time business people coming out,
mm,
is so valuable.
mm,
And I think that's really where maybe I specialize in. I mean,
mm,
I have my business plans, I've done access to programs and so on. But I think in that kind of mental space is it's what the value that's most needed for the young entrepreneurs.
mm. Great. Let's just surf because we are on the tech surf. Let's surf over let's surf over the African tech landscape. What are some of the interesting things you're seeing today? You did mention Flutterwave, you did mention Andela, others. What are some of the interesting things that you're seeing in the African landscape that has you excited about African tech entrepreneurship?
I think right now in Africa you have this African free trade continental area being talked about. So it's the easiest way to explain it is about like Africa become like the EU,
Mm,
maybe not single currency, but opening of borders, opening of goods and
Mm,
movements, and things like that. And it's still like a concept. Some countries have not ratified it, and so on. But for me, what's exciting is like startups are not waiting for it to come to be, but are going ahead.
mm,
And you now have a lot more. I mean, so Ghana is surrounded by francophone countries,
mm,
so countries that speak French.
mm.
Uh, Ivory Coast,
Burkina
Burkina
Faso, Cote
Faso,
d'Ivoire. Oh,
Togo,
Togo, yeah, yeah,
Benin.
Togo, Benin, yeah.
So you often have Ghanaian companies in the past saying, "Okay, cool, I'm doing business in Ghana, then Nigeria, and then maybe Kenya," because
Mm,
I'm not going into francophone regions, right?
mm,
And of course, like francophone companies would only stay, Senegal will go to Mali and
mm,
Burkina Faso, but like, why go to Ghana? Because it's English speaking. All of a sudden, that's not the case anymore. Like, you start having companies going into the French speaking zones, going across borders. Like all of a sudden, there's this blurred lines
mm,
of borders.
mm,
Like borders are becoming less and less
right.
important. Business is happening across. Companies are expanding into new territories,
Mm,
and I think that's really exciting.
mm,
Like before, like for all these like startup competitions, like you hear this TAM sum sum, which is kind of like your market size, total market size, and
mm,
what size you want to address, and so
mm,
on and so forth.
mm,
And it always used to be like in the case of Ghana, okay, the population of Ghana is 30 million, but most of the capital, which is 5 million, and
right,
we look at this, 100,000 people first.
right.
But now all of a sudden, like the addressable market is Africa.
Mm,
Like people are like saying, I'm starting in Ghana, or I'm starting in the capital Accra, but my goal is to conquer Africa.
mm,
So entrepreneurs are thinking bigger, and you have more examples of them doing that.
mm,
The Flutter Waves, the Paystacks, M Farmer, huge
mm-hmm,
health tech in
right,
Ghana,
right.
spreading around.
Mm,
Jetstream also spreading around. So it's really great to see.
mm,
So I think that's one huge highlight, that kind of Pan African expansion
mm,
in the first part.
mm,
There's one company, Copianto. They recently went to, thanks to Blue Space Africa, they took them to Malta for a trip,
mm,
and then they got into Malta's startup Shark Tank,
mm.
and they won $100,000 at Shark Tank to
Wow.
help them expand into Europe. So they're also not now saying, okay, I'm just going to expand into other African countries.
Mm,
They're here in Ghana, and it's like, okay, cool, we have some exposure somewhere, but we're going into Europe. There's no longer like borders and barriers
mm,
being a limitation. Um, and then the other side, we still need a lot more of it, but you now have female role models that you can look up to who are raising serious amounts of money. Not
mm.
like they're getting some like
Like,
honorary
yeah, yeah,
prize
no,
money
no, not
somewhere, but
chicken
like no,
change.
both female entrepreneurs that are raising funds. In Ghana last year, one of the largest raised companies that were the largest raises rather, was Jetstream, run by Mishi Adi. You've had people like Megan and Patience and Peace Hyde and other females just really not just be there but dominate the space. Vadi Labi from Wahoo Mobility, one of the leading e-bikes. They're doing a lot more, but I think that's still on the wraps for now, so I can't share, but they're doing great. So females are doing a lot of things, but not just in Ghana and other parts of Africa. You have female entrepreneurs like Olu Brown and Harriet from 40X, who are also like changing the landscape of females in that investor space, aggressive capital as well. Um, so you also have more females in the space. NECA and Vested World. So it's also not just a man's game when it comes to VCs. We still did a lot more in the space, but now you have role models you can look up to. And I think that's one of the exciting things in this African ecosystem, looking beyond the borders of Ghana, of seeing these trends. Cross border, as I mentioned, female entrepreneurs coming up, and a lot more investment in the space, both from, I mean, it's still dominated by funds coming from outside, but now you have like funds coming from Korea and Japan into Africa, which wasn't the case before. Austria, that doesn't have like historic ties to Africa like the same way England or France does, are investing in the space. So that's great to see. But you also have a lot more local funds picking up, and also the ticket sizes that they're able to raise for their funds grow extensively. Right. So I mean, we still need a lot more money, but now we can actually write larger tickets.
So one would say that you are very busy. You don't get the chance to do other fun stuff, which I'll beg to differ because at the beginning you did mention that you've been involved in music, events, and all that. But if you can walk us through how you try to keep your life balanced, do you ever achieve work-life balance? Are there times where the balance is skewed to one
Okay.
end? How do you try to have a bit more relaxation in your life amidst all the things that you keep doing?
I don't think I'm a good um, role model, let's say, for work-life balance. I would
Okay.
definitely put that there. But I think it's also different. If you love what you do, then you need a balance from it. I mean, I
Mm,
look at someone like Elon Musk, who has Tesla and SpaceX and
mm,
Neuralink
mm.
and Hyperloop, and he's constantly going between these different things, and Twitter, of course, right? Let's not forget that. And he's actually
X.
tweeting himself, which is good or bad
Mm.
depending on how you look at it. Right? But
Right.
he is so in love with what he does that that's
Mm,
what fuels him. And like his relaxation is going from Twitter to SpaceX, and SpaceX is somewhere else, right? So and like I I finish work and then I do some mentoring and then I have someone come by who let me see the business plan. Like I don't think I get a lot of like just sleep and kicking your feet up and just watching movies like
going like traveling, traveling
traveling,
here
and
and there.
unfortunately it's become a things I don't do a lot anymore, right? But like for example, if I do watch a movie, I'm very likely to have the movie kind of like minimized and half screen and have like my to do list in the other half that's going, just like
Oh my
or becomes just
goodness.
like background music,
Right.
just like okay, cool. I have
Right.
heard this movie before, I have seen this before. So like I do
Right.
I do try to take time and just like uh, zone off. I think my love for Arsenal Football Club helps. So I just try to take some time off and just watch the beautiful game. Um, I
Right.
hope you're not going to say anything else afterwards. Thank you.
I'm not a football fan,
Safe.
so we just let that stay there.
Safe. A friend sent me a link today that Arsenal FC is a TV series because we keep talking about next season. I'm just like, thank you very much.
That's a nice
Right. So
one.
I do
That's a
try to take some
nice
time off like
one.
that. Spending time with family, with friends. But even with friends, every now and then the conversation ends up being like, oh, I just thought of this idea. What do you think? Right? So we end up just like brainstorming.
Mm,
I talked to a friend of mine,
mm,
completely different field. She's doing amazing work in like conservation and blue ocean. She's living in Australia, doing stuff in the Great Barrier Reef. So we try to catch her from time to time. We're having a call right
mm,
now, so 1 o'clock in Ghana time, whatnot. And somehow
mm,
the
mm,
conversation ended up being, oh, we should create a platform to do ABC, right? I'm just like, okay, not the kind of like just rest and relaxation I was thinking of, but it's like if you enjoy doing it, it's not work.
mm. That's amazing. Um, Everyone who is Pan African, right, has, and everyone, I am Pan African as well. We're very optimistic about Africa. The reason why I'm running this series is to throw more light on, African stories and to get people to see that the African is intelligent, is creative, likes to take challenges. We are not fighting lions or we are not all impoverished. I keep even telling some of my friends who went international when I was doing my masters in France that there are people who are actually affluent more than a lot of people in Europe that have a kind of wealth that you've probably not seen before. But because of what or because of what the media has, sold to you, you have this idea of what Africa is. But Africa is rich. The only unfortunate thing is maybe in terms of leadership, that's where we tend to lack it here and there in terms of, because the resources we do have, and maybe also some of the mindsets on the cultural line and everything. We've been at this evangelism of Africa, create for Africa. Africa is going to, is the next big thing. Everyone is investing in Africa, everyone is coming to Africa and all that. Do you feel like we're taking the right steps, or we're in the right direction towards Africa becoming that global icon? If not, what do you think is lagging, and how can all of us wake up and attend to those challenges on a global scale. It's not just tech, it's not just finance, it's not just anything. Africa as a whole, Pan Africanism, people say, "Come back home, come back home. There's oil on the land. Come back home." People come and leave. People come and stay. You came, you stayed. Maybe you could take from a personal story what made you stay and why you still believe that we are all of us, all the 54 countries are going in the right direction towards Africa excelling. Yeah, if you can.
I'm trying to think of what I can say that's safe for TV. Like,
Yes, as safe as possible.
um, I think I'll start with Fuse ODG, Ghanaian UK music artist, and he has something he
Mm,
calls Tina. This is New Africa,
mm,
and I
mm,
think, I mean, you said it right. That the media has not helped. I went to university
mm,
in the UK. I went to university at Warwick, one of the top universities in the country, and on my first or second night there, I thought I made a
mm,
mistake and I was really close to pack my bags and going back home. I was talking to
mm,
someone in my corridor and they were trying to find out where my accent is from. I don't have a very typical accent. So it's not typical British, it wasn't
mm.
Australian, it wasn't American. So guess.
Yes,
They kept
yes.
trying to, like, deduct the case. Not Scottish, not Irish. So she came up with the conclusion I must be Welsh. So it's like,
Mm.
okay. So maybe I should have gotten the clues from that. And then I told her I'm
Right.
from Ghana. I kid you not. Without missing a beat, without hesitation, her next question straight off the bat was, "Do you have cars in Ghana?"
Wow.
And I mean, I grew up in a place where people could call me the N word and all that, but that was for me the most racist comment I've ever received till date.
Mm.
And it's
Right.
partly or mostly kind of ignorance and because of what she's been fed by media. And if you just look at
Mm.
Oxfam videos or whatnot, you just see a starving mother in front of a mud hut, and that's all you see.
Mm.
Or you watch Blood
Right.
Diamonds and there's jungle and warfare. I mean, in Blood Diamonds we have cars, so you should have seen the cars there. Anyway,
Mm.
um,
Right.
so like we have to change the narrative. That's why I love what Fuse is doing,
Mm.
because we need to change the
Mm.
narrative of what people think of Africa. And I think
Mm.
music is such a powerful instrument. Music can go
Mm.
further than tech and business can. And I mean, Fuse, I think, is one of the pioneers of really getting African music to the Western world, Zonto and all of that. Having people the likes of Ed Sheeran come to Ghana, enjoy
Mm.
the stay, do remixes, and all of a sudden you start seeing more appreciation of African music there. Ed Sheeran has now also done a
Mm.
remix with Peru, the Peru song with Fireboy,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah. By
so
boy.
you start seeing having the world see Africa. Burna Boy, Wizkid, Stone Boy, and others. I'm a piano now. Tyler and like water, right?
Right. I think even Rem has even caught
Uh-huh.
the attention of Indians. So it's
Exactly,
like
right? So all of a
right.
sudden, African music is making it out there. You start seeing the music videos. You start seeing cars in the music videos.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm sticking with cars. You just
Mm.
we have cars. We have cars.
I can see that really
It
scarred
scarred
you.
me. We have cars. You see the
Right.
fashion. You see the food. You see the lifestyle, the houses, the
Right.
beaches, and that helps shape narrative. That wow, Africa's a beautiful place. It's a structured place. It's an organized place. Um, but I think the biggest thing we need to do as Africans, both in on the continent and abroad, is
Mm.
to know our history and
Mm.
to know our identity. Because I don't think we
Mm.
know. And a lot of things, at least in Ghana, for example, are being written by British. Like our school books are written by the British. So like
Mm.
the stories and the narratives are from their point of view.
Mm.
And there's this phrase called well, I call it the lion's tale. It says that if the tale of the hunt is told, wait, unless the tale of the hunt is told by the lion, it will always glorify the
Mm.
hunter.
Mm.
Unless the tale of the
Mm.
hunt is told by the lion, will always glorify the hunter. And the hunter,
mm,
the West, have been telling the tale of Africa, and it's time for the
mm,
lion to
mm,
tell its own tale.
mm,
And we
mm,
need to understand that because, like, people sometimes think that we were living in mud huts and uncivilized conditions, and the Europeans came and gave us culture and education. But we had cities in
mm,
Africa bigger than London with
mm,
sanitation before the British came down.
mm, mm,
And I mean, yes, we know about the Egyptians and so on and so forth, but Timbuktu was the place with the
mm,
oldest library in the world. It wasn't Oxford University,
mm,
right? So if we
mm,
get to share those narratives, that like actually we have lots of great knowledge and education and wisdom that were African before Europeans came, with culture and
mm,
tradition and so on, then I think we'll have more pride in ourselves, both Ghanaians but also
mm,
Black Americans and people in the Caribbean, and be willing to collaborate and do more. I think last year,
mm,
more money flowed into Africa in terms of remittance than foreign direct investment.
mm.
So,
Wow.
as an African living outside of Africa, you have the power, whether it's £1, £10, or £100, to do more than a development organization is doing.
Mm,
And resharing this podcast, resharing music, resharing things that are happening to help change awareness, because you have a media
mm,
machine that is engineered to
mm,
not uplift Africa. We need to have our own media machine
mm,
doing that
mm.
work for us.
Right. That is true, and that is amazing. Speaking of mantras, do you have one that you live by? I know you have, and I wanted us to delve into it just yet, or I didn't want us to delve into it just yet, but Isaac just has this crazy affiliation with a fancy school, even though he didn't go there himself, but his family ties and everything. So I say he's an adopted MOBA, and I know one of the things that you often put on your social media is Jun Shakan. That's the mantra for if there's any MOBA listening, they know what that means. Jun Shakan, think and look ahead. Um, just picking back from that, do you have any specific or other mantras that you live by? Yeah, maybe they could be from, I don't know. Just
Yeah.
just go for it.
So apart from that one, um, I'm not sure into the full story about the infantry payment. We'll see. We get that into that later.
We'll come to
We'll,
that. That's
we'll
the
come to that
next.
later.
That's the next thing. So we'll come to that.
One of the most powerful, and there's some people who come into your life for a reason, and this is one person with
Mm-hmm.
Sarah. Met her at a conference, then met her again like 4 years later in a town
Mm,
in Germany. It was like maybe like 18
mm,
hours I spent that time in the town, and we still like talking WhatsApp every now and then in the blue moon, happy birthday and stuff. But she mentioned this phrase that has stuck with me. Um, in German, it's Wie kann man sich sagen, man hat sich verloren, wenn man immer auf dem richtigen Pfad war? Which translates into English like, how can you say you've gone astray when you've always been on the right path? And
mm,
sometimes you need to go into the wilderness to get on track. I mean, if you look at the stories of like David from the Bible, we know him for like the defeating
mm,
Goliath, but he had all these crazy adventures after defeating Goliath, living in
mm,
caves and running away from Saul, and and all those things led him to be who he was as a king. And
mm,
and like,
right.
and he's written most of the Psalms in the Bible, and it's like Psalm
Mm,
23, lead me by still waters, even though I go through the valley of the
mm,
shadow of death. And
never
like,
shut it
he
down.
wouldn't have written those Psalms if he didn't have the journeys literally going through
Mm,
the valleys of the shadow of death at the time.
that's
So it's
true.
it's something
That's
that's really
true.
stuck with me because, like, I mean, connected to that, Steve Jobs at a commencement speech he gave 2004 at Stanford. Really, really great speech. If anyone wants to go listen to it, um, he talks about the issue in life is that you connect the
Mm,
dots backwards. So
mm,
it's only when you've kind of lived life you can go look back and say, "Oh, this
yeah.
event and this thing
Yeah.
led there."
I, I think I've seen. Yeah. I think I've seen that code that you can. Yeah. You can only connect the dots backwards, but not
Yeah.
forward. I think something of that
So
sort. Yeah.
that's been kind of also like an intention of mine to kind of, okay, well, knowing that, let me see how I can just create dots. So I'm very intentional. I mean, I maybe some people say I give too much and I love too deeply and so on and so forth. And I've got burnt and scars and so on and so forth. But I'm just like, okay, I don't know what dot.
We are
Yeah.
similar. Yeah, don't worry. We are scarred. We are scarred lions that just keep
Yes,
smiling.
yeah, But I was like, I don't know which dot
Right.
is gonna connect. And sometimes there's some really
Mm,
obvious dots and it makes sense. Other times, places that you have put a lot of the that is true. Places you put a lot of the efforts in don't manifest into anything. But some people where you
mm,
showed some random love and kindness to come back years later and open doors for you that you didn't think were able to be opened. Right.
mm,
So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that 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 is very refreshing. I actually like how you ended that because it's actually spoken to some things that I've had go on just this week alone, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's actually just been very refreshing how you've been able to land on that. Now, speaking about fan swim, you did not go to fan swim school. You stayed abroad. But then I see you wearing the fan swim shirt. I see you going to the hill to. I'm just
Stakeholders
wondering, like,
meetings
walk
and
us
all
through
that.
the whole exactly, like, walk us through how you are an fan swim affiliate, for the lack of a better
Well,
word.
let me ask you, who are one of the people who helped put Infanta Pim together? Let me test your Infanta Pim knowledge.
Okay, it'll be very embarrassing on my part, but I've totally forgotten a lot of the history of a fast film school. Maybe because I'm writing too much code. I'll fail. I'll fail at this. I was senior
You
head
see the
boy,
head, but what
senior
are the
head boy.
one of the names
But
associated with Infanta Pim
as okay, like a fast film
as
overall
a
as a
brand?
brand,
Hmm.
apart from the
Like what are the
Kofi Annan, I think Kofi Annan is quite one of the okay, but he's an extract
yeah,
of
but
a fan spam. I'm not necessarily a
one of the
founding
founding fathers?
father.
Or do you know a
Um,
founding father kind of Ghana that did a lot for education? Prominent lawyer.
the name. The name is like in my head, but I can't.
You
Isaac, I
failed. You
failed.
failed.
This is why I'm
Yes.
like, no, if Aspen is going to be proud of, if Aspen Mobile is going to be proud of me, I'm sorry here. But yeah, help
John
me
Mensah
out.
Saba.
Yes, I
It was,
knew
it was,
it.
it was at the
It
tip of your
was
tongue.
just right. It was right there. Yes, I knew that because funny enough, I have family member who is Saba, so it's like it was just right. Yeah, but I failed. I accept this failure. But
Oh,
yeah, go for
wait,
it.
wait, wait. Let me just read. You have a family member that's Saba?
Yes, I have a granddad who is Saba, but I don't know whether he's for the Volta region. I don't know whether it's has any roots of a sort, but who knows? We may be
Because
cousins, family. I don't know.
then maybe we are family. Because
Well, it would be obvious.
now it makes so much sense. We discover on the call with family.
We need to find out and see
So
how the
I'm a
connection is. But yeah,
great
but he's called Saba.
grandson of John Mensah Saba. So because of that,
Oh,
I
okay.
respect all he has done, and that's why my
Mm,
connection to Infanta Pim is so strong.
mm, mm. And what do you mainly do with that? Like, what do you do on the hill? Are you like, like just walk us through like what contribution you are
Yeah.
mainly making on the hill at the
So
moment?
the school have been reaching out to try to find the descendants to also kind of make sure they're involved in some of the things they're going. So for the last couple of
Mm,
years,
mm,
we've been involved in like education stakeholder meetings that the school does with
mm,
the
mm,
MOBA, that's in the Infantry Old Boys Association, but also
mm,
other stakeholders from government and the education sector. So usually in
mm,
April, they have a general stakeholders get together, and they invite
mm,
the Saba
mm,
family to be part of that as well, which is then why
mm,
I'm up,
mm,
up in the hill.
mm. That is amazing. We're about to conclude, and it's sad because how I wish that podcasts, audio podcasts for that matter, would allow you to, have 2 hours. But based on my little research on attention spans, after a while, you tend to lose people. But I wanted to just conclude on your best advice that you can give to people who are getting started. We, I, okay. I want the coach in you, the mentor in you. Imagine that you have all my listeners, as many as they are at the moment and yet to become. give the best of advice that a big brother, a father, an uncle will give for people in terms of their careers, in terms of their networking, and also in terms of life. Yeah, pretty much.
to
I
to
know I like to put you on
to
the
yeah,
spot.
really.
I'm so
No,
sorry.
I'm trying to think of one single bullet to give. Um,
Just
I'll
mm,
say actually that one of kind of another kind of mantra I go by. Um, Peter Drucker, who was the father of modern management. He was kind of the patron for my master program, which I did was strategy, innovation,
mm,
management control. And he has a
mm,
quote of the best way to predict the future is to create it.
mm,
And I think, you know, whether it's in your career, whether you do a startup or whatever, you have the power
mm,
to create the future that you want. But
mm,
you then also have, now quoting from Batman, uh, with great power comes great responsibility. Is it right?
right.
You have the responsibility to make sure that you are equipped to create that future. That is the
Mm,
research you need to do, the knowledge you need to learn, the skills, the network, and so on and so forth. So like I
mm,
have a lot of people who say, "Oh, I want to be a tech entrepreneur." I'm like, "Okay, cool. What tech events do you go to? What tech books have you read? What thing? Oh, nothing." I'm like, "What shows that you want to
mm,
be a tech entrepreneur?" Right. So
right.
you need to build up those skills then to be able to do that. But
Mm,
also know you're creating the future. It's going to be hard. It's going to be uncertain. But it's in your hand. The future is in your hand.
mm, right. Isaac, this has been very refreshing. For me, it's been a coaching session. It's been a whole 1 hour coaching session because for me, when you first reached out on LinkedIn, it was like we are very similar and we need to talk. And we started talking. I just realized how similar we are. We actually speak very much alike. Having you on the pod is just like virtually me. You said I should create my future. Well, there it is. There it is facing me. But for me, I like to do this to, or I like to say this to the guests that I have these days is like, thank you for shining your light. Thank you for not dimming your light. We live in a world where constantly people who are in quote a lot are tempted to have to, dim their light because others will feel like, the light is just too much for them to handle and everything. But I see you, and it's not just people assume that people are active on LinkedIn do not do much. But then I see you online there, and you're not just doing, you're not just writing or just having an online presence, but you are making great change. And it's admirable. And say thank you for believing in Ghana, believing in Africa, and giving the using your skills and your abilities, your network to build people, and also to build people, and also to build these businesses that are going to, be the thriving forces and the agents of change in our future. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you too for accepting to be on the Tech Stuff podcast. I really, really enjoyed
My
having
pleasure,
you.
my pleasure. Anytime, anytime.
Amazing. Starting an entrepreneurial journey in the African continent is a non trivial task, as it challenges the entrepreneur's idea and encourages them to push beyond the boundaries of their solutions. The insights shared by Isaac illuminate the unique challenges and opportunities that African entrepreneurs face, emphasizing the importance of context driven solutions that resonate with local realities. Isaac reminds us that difficult is not impossible, and the African is the captain of its ship. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode.